The chief surgeon fired her for unorthodox methods, then saw her patient records: 347 saves, 0 losses, all combat zones. Dr. Elena Kozlov mopped floors in the basement of Metropolitan General. Former trauma surgeon, now maintenance staff. Nobody knew, nobody asked. The termination letter sat in her locker. Unorthodox methods incompatible with hospital protocol. That was 3 months ago. Chief Surgeon Marcus Webb had signed it himself, watched security escort her out, didn't even look her in the eye. She didn't fight it, didn't appeal, just disappeared. Into the basement, into the shadows, into silence. Until the night the trauma bay received 15 critical patients from a mass casualty event. Until every surgeon on duty was overwhelmed. Until the hospital ran out of time. Until someone thrust a chart into Webb's hands. A patient file, stamped with a red seal he'd never seen before. Military medical records, classified, recently declassified. Dr. Elena Kozlov, forward surgical team, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, 347 saves, 0 losses, all combat zones. His hands started shaking because somewhere upstairs monitors were screaming and his best surgeons were failing. And the woman he'd fired was mopping blood off linoleum, 30 seconds until someone died. The call came in at 22:34. Bridge collapse, Interstate 95, 15 critical patients inbound. Webb took command of the trauma bay like he'd done 1,000 times before. Assigning bays, distributing surgical teams, coordinating with blood bank. He was the best chief surgeon Metropolitan General had ever had. 12 years in the position, impeccable record, lowest mortality rate in the state. The first ambulance arrived at 22:41, then the second, the third, the fourth. They kept coming, sirens screaming, paramedics shouting, gurneys crashing through doors. Bay 1, crushed pelvis with arterial bleeding. Bay 2, pneumothorax with flail chest. Bay 3, massive head trauma with brain swelling. Bay 4, abdominal evisceration with exposed bowel. It didn't stop. Bay 5, Bay 6, Bay 7, more ambulances, more patients, more blood. Dr. Patricia Vance, 20 years of trauma experience, looked up from Bay 6 with panic in her eyes. I can't control this bleeding, it's everywhere. Dr. Stephen Rodriguez in Bay 8, patients crashing, blood pressure dropping, I need help here. Now. Webb moved between bays, coordinating, directing, commanding, but the monitors kept screaming. 22:47, code blue in Bay 3, 22:51, code blue in Bay 7, 22:54, code blue in Bay 2. They were losing patients, 3 at once. Metropolitan General didn't lose patients, not like this, not under Webb's command. He'd trained every surgeon in this room, implemented the best protocols, followed every standard of care, everything by the book. So why were people dying? His surgeons were the best in the region, his methods proven over 12 years, his reputation impeccable. But the monitors kept flatling, and the blood kept flowing. And time kept running out. The administrative director, Margaret Chen, burst through the trauma bay doors, face pale, hands shaking. Marcus, I need to speak with you. Not now, Margaret. Now, Marcus. Something in her voice made him turn, made him look away from the chaos. She held a manila folder, red classified stamp across the front, Pentagon seal in the corner. I was processing old HR termination records. Pentagon algorithm flagged this file automatically. Declassification after 3 months separation from military service. Webb stared at the folder. Elena Kozlov's name across the tab. His stomach dropped. Open it, Margaret said. You need to see this. Behind him, another monitor flatlined. Someone screamed for a crash cart. Webb opened the file. The first page hit him like a fist to the chest. United States Army, Forward Surgical Team Alpha, Combat Trauma Specialist, Officer in charge of Emergency Surgical Operations, Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, Mosul, Iraq, Aleppo, Syria, Yemen. Total combat trauma cases handled, 347. Patient survival rate, 100%. 0 losses, 0 deaths, 0 failures. He couldn't breathe. He flipped the page. Commendations covered the sheet. Combat medical badge with star. Bronze star with valor device. Purple Heart, Meritorious Service Medal, another page. Surgical innovations developed under fire. Improvised thoracotomy techniques for blast injuries. Non-standard vessel repair approaches for shrapnel wounds. Combat triage protocols for mass casualty events. The exact methods he'd fired her for. The exact techniques he'd called dangerous. The exact innovations he'd banned from his hospital. His vision blurred. Bay 3, someone shouted. We're losing her, 30 seconds. Webb looked up, saw the gurney, saw the patient, 19-year-old girl, college student, crushed chest from the bridge collapse, internal bleeding they couldn't control. Vance had her hands inside the chest cavity. Blood everywhere. I can't reach the vessel. Standard approach isn't working. I can't see it. I can't find it. How long? 2 minutes until brain death. Maybe less. Webb looked at the file in his hands, then at the basement access door across the trauma bay. The door he walked past every day. The basement where he'd banished her. She's a janitor, he thought. Because of me. Because I fired the best trauma surgeon in the world for being better than me. He ran. Down the main stairs, through the corridor, down 3 more flights, into the basement. Fluorescent lights flickered over concrete floors, smell of disinfectant and floor wax. Elena was there, mopping, methodical strokes, calm movements, like the chaos upstairs didn't exist, like people weren't dying 3 floors above her head. I need you upstairs, Webb said, breathing hard. Now. Elena didn't look up. Her mop moved in steady circles, creating wet paths across the saw. Concrete. You need a surgeon. I'm maintenance. 19-year-old girl. 2 minutes. Crushed thorax with intercostal vessel rupture. Massive hemorrhage. Standard approach failing. Elena's hands stopped moving. Her entire body went rigid. The mop handle trembled in her grip. Please. Webb had never said that word to anyone in 12 years as chief surgeon. Elena set down the mop, slowly, carefully, looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were ice, cold, hard, unforgiving. You fired me for saving lives your way couldn't save. I know. You called my methods unorthodox, dangerous, reckless. I know. You called security, had them escort me out like I was a criminal, like I'd harmed someone instead of saving them. I know. You didn't even let me say goodbye to my patients. I know. The girl upstairs has 90 seconds, maybe less. Silence. Then Elena walked past him. Didn't run, just walked. Steady pace, like she had all the time in the world, like she'd done this 1,000 times before. They took the stairs. Webb struggled to keep up. Elena moved like a soldier, efficient, purposeful. The trauma bay doors opened. Elena walked in wearing her custodial uniform, blue scrubs with bleach stains, name tag that said, maintenance staff. Every head turned, conversation stopped, hands froze, everyone stared. Vance looked up from Bay 3, blood covering her arms. Marcus, what the hell are you doing? She's taking over Bay 3. Rodriguez stepped forward from Bay 8. That's the janitor. That's the woman you fired. The monitor flatlined. One long tone. Continuous. Piercing. Elena moved. She crossed the trauma bay in 3 strides. Vance stumbled backward, nearly tripped. Elena didn't ask permission, didn't explain, didn't hesitate. Scalpel. Rib spreaders. O negative blood. 4 units. Move. No hesitation. No scrubbing in. No gloves even. Her hands were inside the chest cavity in 12 seconds. Vance gasped, grabbed the table edge. She just performed a clamshell thoracotomy without protocol, without sterile technique, without anything. Elena's hands moved like they had eyes of their own, threading through damaged tissue, navigating around broken ribs, finding the torn intercostal artery no one else could reach. The vessel was hidden, retracted, bleeding into the chest cavity. Elena found it in 5 seconds. Clamp. A nurse handed it to her, hands shaking, suture, 4-0 Proline. Another hand, steadier now, tie, double throw. Elena's fingers blurred, moving faster than eyes could follow. Pressure, hold it, 30 seconds. The flatline tone continued, then broke. One beep, then another beep, then a rhythm. Steady, strong, normal. 23:08. Patient stable, vitals normalizing. Elena stepped back from the table. Blood covered her arms to the elbows, soaked into her uniform. The entire trauma team stood frozen, silent. Webb stared at her hands like he was seeing them for the first time, like he'd never really looked at them before. A young resident whispered, eyes wide. That's not in any textbook. That's not in any manual I've ever read. Elena finally looked up, met the resident's eyes. It's in the field manual. Combat Surgical Protocol, Appendix K, written for conditions where seconds matter more than sterile technique. She walked to Bay 5 before anyone could respond. What are you doing? Rodriguez called after her. My job, saving the next one. Bay 5, abdominal trauma, liver laceration, grade 4, massive. The attending surgeon had been working for 20 minutes, making no progress, trying every standard approach, following every protocol. Patient's blood pressure kept dropping. Elena examined the patient, checked vitals, looked at the exposed abdomen, assessed the injury in 3 seconds. I've done this 73 times in Kandahar. Trust me or get out. The attending looked at Rodriguez. Rodriguez looked at Webb. Webb nodded. The attending stepped aside. Elena's approach was completely different, accessing the liver from an angle that seemed anatomically impossible, packing the wound with a technique no one had seen before, her hands moving faster than thought. She didn't explain, didn't teach, just worked. 4 minutes later, the bleeding stopped, completely. Patient stable, vitals climbing. She moved to Bay 7, tension pneumothorax with cardiac tamponade, double emergency. Either one could kill in minutes. The senior surgeon was fumbling with needle decompression, hands shaking, sweat on his forehead, trying to find the right intercostal space. Second attempt, third attempt. Elena put her hand on his wrist, firm grip, stopped him cold. Wrong space. Fourth intercostal, not fifth. You'll hit the heart. Patient dies. She took the needle from his hand, inserted it with absolute confidence, no hesitation, no second guessing, then grabbed another instrument with her other hand. She performed both procedures simultaneously, decompressing the lung while draining the pericardial sac, left hand and right hand working independently. 90 seconds. Both emergencies resolved, patient stable, color returning to face. Elena moved to Bay 9. Webb stood in the center of the trauma bay, the file still in his hands, still open. He started reading aloud, voice carrying over the chaos. Forward Surgical Team Alpha, Kandahar Province, Mosul, Aleppo. Everyone stopped working, looked at him. Average patient survival rate in combat surgical teams operating in active war zones, 87%. He turned the page, hands trembling. Dr. Elena Kozlov's survival rate, 100%. Vance's face went white. That's statistically impossible. Nobody has a perfect record. Nobody. Webb looked at Elena across the room, her hands inside another patient's chest, moving with mechanical precision, 347 consecutive saves without a single loss, under enemy fire, with limited supplies, in conditions we can't imagine. He closed the file, set it down. Unless you're treating combat trauma like combat trauma, unless you stop following peacetime protocols for wartime injuries. Silence. Then everyone went back to work. But differently now, watching Elena, learning, adapting. Hour 4, the chaos had transformed into controlled efficiency. 12 patients saved, stabilized, moved to ICU, 3 still critical, still fighting. Elena worked with machine efficiency, no wasted movement, no hesitation, no second guessing. Every decision instant and correct. She'd been operating for 4 hours straight. No break, no water, no rest. Her hands never shook, her focus never wavered. The young nurse who'd been assisting her finally spoke, voice quiet, respectful. "Why were you mopping floors?" Elena didn't look up from the surgical field, hands continuing their work. "Because I was fired." The trauma bay went silent, except for the monitors, except for the beeping, except for the breathing. "For what?" the nurse pressed. Elena tied off a vessel, checked the repair, moved to the next injury, for using methods that saved lives instead of following protocols that waste time. She looked directly at Webb for the first time since the operating began, her eyes cutting, accusing. Not everyone values results over procedure. Not everyone cares more about patients than paperwork. Webb felt the words like a blade between his ribs. Bay 12. The last critical patient, the worst case. Multiple organ damage, massive hemorrhage, crush injuries to chest and abdomen, compound fractures, internal bleeding in 3 cavities. Every surgeon who'd examined him had said the same thing. Impossible, unsalvageable, too far gone. They'd almost called it, almost pronounced him dead, but Webb had ordered them to keep trying, to wait. Elena approached the gurney, checked the chart, looked at the monitor readings, examined the wounds, then went completely still. Her hands started trembling. First sign of emotion all night. First crack in the armor. Webb noticed immediately. Stepped closer. "What is it?" "I know this injury pattern." "What pattern?" "IED blast, shrapnel fragmentation, percussion damage from the explosion wave. I've seen this exact combination before." "How can you know that from a bridge collapse?" "Because the physics are the same. Compression wave, flying debris, multi-directional trauma. It's identical." Her breathing changed, became shallow, fast. Her eyes went distant, hands steady again, but something different in her posture. something haunted. "Can you save him?" Webb asked quietly. Long pause. Too long. "I've saved this exact injury before, twice." Her voice hollow, empty. She began operating, but something was wrong. Her movements were mechanical, robotic, like she wasn't fully present, like part of her was somewhere else. Someone else. "Stay with me, Martinez," she whispered. "You don't get to die on me. Not again." Vance looked at Webb, mouthed silently. "Who's Martinez?" Webb pulled out his phone, hands shaking, searched the military file he'd photographed earlier, scrolled through pages, found it. Lieutenant James Martinez, KIA, Kandahar Province, 3 years ago, February 17th, combat-related injuries. His stomach turned. Elena's hands moved through the surgical field, opening, clamping, repairing, suturing. But she was talking, not to the team, to herself, to someone who wasn't there, someone who couldn't hear her. 347 saves. Everyone counts that number like it's a miracle, like I'm some kind of hero. Her voice breaking, cracking. Nobody counts the 348th. Nobody talks about the one who didn't make it. The trauma bay had gone completely silent. Everyone watching, everyone listening, hands frozen, instruments held midair, breathing stopped. 3 years ago, Field Hospital, Kandahar Province, February 17th. Her hands never stopped moving, never paused, muscle memory carrying her through. Mass casualty event from coordinated Taliban attack. 23 wounded soldiers came through those doors in 4 hours. 23 kids who should have died. Clamp, suture, tie, repeat. I performed 22 impossible saves in 16 hours. 16 hours without stopping, without sitting, without eating. 22 men who shouldn't have lived, who went home to their families, who got to see their children again. She looked down at the current patient, really looked at him. Martinez was number 23. Same injury pattern as this one. IED blast, shrapnel through the abdomen and chest, massive hemorrhage. Her hands hesitated. First time all night, first moment of doubt. I was exhausted, past exhaustion, operating on autopilot, made one wrong call. Just one. She pointed to a vessel in the patient's chest, clamped the wrong vessel, the subclavian instead of the intercostal, realized it 30 seconds too late. The monitor alarm started rising, patient destabilizing, 348 seconds to fix it, to make the correction, to save him. Tears on her face now, falling into the surgical field. He died in 347. Her hands were shaking badly now. Instruments rattling, came back to the States 2 months later. Honorable discharge, trauma too severe. Nightmares every night, but I had to do something, had to make it mean something. She looked at Webb, met his eyes, tried to teach other surgeons what I knew. Combat protocols, field innovations, techniques that worked in Kandahar, methods that saved those 22 men. Elena's voice turned hard, bitter. But hospital bureaucracy doesn't work on combat time. Hospital egos don't care about battlefield results. Webb felt his throat close, felt shame burning through him. I tried implementing my protocols here. At Metropolitan General, faster triage systems, unconventional surgical approaches, techniques proven under fire. She gestured around the trauma bay. You shut me down every single time, every suggestion, every innovation, every attempt to save more lives. That's not how we do things here, Dr. Kozlov. That's not standard procedure, Dr. Kozlov. That's not appropriate for a civilian hospital, Dr. Kozlov. Webb remembered. Every meeting, every argument, every dismissal, every time he'd prioritized his authority over her expertise, every patient who might have lived if he'd listened. The final incident happened 3 months ago. Patient came in flatlined. Motorcycle accident, massive chest trauma. Elena's voice grew stronger, more controlled. No time to get to the trauma bay. He was dying in the ER hallway, in front of other patients, in front of families, in front of children. So I did what I was trained to do, what I'd done 43 times in combat. She described it. Every detail, every second. Emergency clamshell thoracotomy right there in the hallway. Opened his chest, found the torn vessel, repaired it, brought him back. Patient lived, walked out of the hospital 2 weeks later, went home to his wife and daughter. Webb fired me the next day, called me into his office, had the termination letter already prepared, already signed. She looked directly at him. Unorthodox methods incompatible with hospital protocol. Those were your exact words. The current patient on the table started crashing hard, vitals dropping fast, blood pressure falling, heart rate erratic. Elena stared at the exposed chest cavity, at the damaged vessels, at the bleeding organs, at the exact same decision point she'd faced with Martinez 3 years ago. Same injury pattern, same vessel damage, same impossible choice. Her hands frozen over the surgical field, completely still. Monitor alarms screaming, nurses calling out numbers, other surgeons moving closer. "I can't do this again," Elena whispered. "I can't lose another one. I can't be responsible for another death." Webb stepped to the table. Directly across from her, met her eyes across the patient's body. "Then don't." She looked at him, tears streaming down her face, hands still frozen in midair. "You didn't lose Martinez because you weren't good enough," Webb said, voice steady, clear. The entire trauma bay listened, everyone frozen, everyone watching. "You lost him because even the best surgeon in the world can't save everyone. Because sometimes the injuries are too severe, the damage too extensive, the time too short." His voice broke, cracked. "But this patient? Right here? Right now?" "You can save this patient." Silence. Then Webb spoke again, louder, stronger. "I fired you because you made me look incompetent." Vance inhaled sharply. Rodriguez took a step back. "Every time you saved someone I couldn't. Every time your methods worked better than mine. Every time you proved that my 12 years of experience meant nothing compared to your 8 months of combat surgery." Webb's hands gripped the table edge, knuckles white. "Every time a patient asked for you instead of me. Every time a resident watched you instead of listening to me. Every time you showed everyone in this hospital that I wasn't the best surgeon here. That I'd never been the best surgeon here." He looked around at the entire surgical team, at every face, every witness. "I chose my ego over patient outcomes. I chose my reputation over lives. I chose my pride over excellence." Back to Elena. "I'm the reason you were mopping floors instead of saving lives. I'm the reason that 19-year-old girl almost died tonight. I'm the reason 12 patients almost didn't make it." Elena's tears fell onto the sterile field, onto the patient, onto her hands. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm not strong enough." "Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I've ever met." Webb moved closer, leaned over the table. "You've done this 347 times under enemy fire, under mortar attacks, under conditions I can't imagine. You can do it once more in a safe hospital with every resource available." Elena's hands started moving, slowly at first, trembling, uncertain, then faster, steadier, surer. She found the correct vessel, the one she'd missed with Martinez, applied the clamp, made the repair, her movements becoming perfect, precise. No hesitation now, tied off the bleeding, packed the wound, closed the damage, the monitor stabilized. One beep, then another, then a steady rhythm, patient's vitals climbing, blood pressure returning, heart rate normalizing, color coming back. Elena worked for another 10 minutes, repairing additional damage, ensuring every vessel was secure, every organ protected. Finally stepped back from the table, looked at the clock on the wall. 03:27. She pulled off her gloves, dropped them in the biohazard bin, looked at the patient, at the steady monitor, at the rising vital signs, 348. Then she turned and walked out of the trauma bay, through the doors, into the hallway, gone. Dawn broke over Metropolitan General, pink and orange light filtering through windows. New day, new beginning. All 15 patients stable, all in ICU, all expected to survive. 0 losses. Elena sat on the floor outside the trauma bay, back against the wall, still in her custodial uniform, covered in dried blood, exhausted. Hospital staff walked past, early morning shift arriving, staring, whispering, pointing. She didn't care, didn't move, just sat. Webb found her there 20 minutes later, sat down beside her on the floor. Neither spoke for a long time, just sat, watching the sunrise through the windows, listening to the hospital wake up around them. Finally, Webb pulled a folder from his jacket, hands shaking slightly. "I owe you more than an apology, more than words can express, but this is a start." He handed it to her. "Your termination is voided, expunged from your record, full reinstatement with back pay for 3 months, benefits restored." Elena didn't take the folder, didn't even look at it. "I don't want my old job back." Webb nodded slowly. "Good, because I'm offering you a different one." She looked at him, waiting. "Director of Trauma Innovation, new position, created this morning by emergency board vote. I called them at 4 a.m. Unanimous approval. What does that mean?" It means you'll train every surgeon in this hospital in combat protocols. You'll rewrite our trauma procedures. You'll implement every innovation you wanted to implement before. He set the folder on the floor between them. Your methods become our methods. Your standards become our standards. Your protocols become hospital policy. And you report directly to the board of directors, not to me, never to me again. Why would you do this? Because in 8 hours you saved 15 lives that would have been lost under my protocols. 15 people who get to go home, who get to see their families again. Webb looked at his hands, at the hands that had signed her termination. And I've been chief surgeon for 12 years, hundreds of trauma cases, thousands of patients. He met her eyes. How many died because I was too proud to learn, too arrogant to listen, too insecure to admit someone was better than me? Footsteps approached down the hallway. Dr. Vance appeared, still in bloody scrubs, face exhausted but determined, hair falling out of her surgical cap. I've been a trauma surgeon for 20 years, trained at Johns Hopkins, practiced in 3 major hospitals, thought I knew everything. She stopped in front of Elena, looked down at her. Tonight you taught me I've been doing it wrong. All of it, for 20 years. Vance crouched down. Eye level with Elena. I'd like to be your first student, if you'll have me. Rodriguez appeared behind her, also still bloody, also exhausted. Second, I want to learn everything you know. More surgeons gathered. The young resident, the attending from Bay 5, the senior surgeon from Bay 7, others. A crowd forming in the hallway. I want to learn everything, the resident said. Every technique, every protocol, every innovation. The attending from Bay 5 stepped forward. I've been practicing for 15 years. Tonight I saw things I didn't think were possible. I need to know how to do what you do. Elena looked at all of them, then at Webb, then at the folder still sitting on the floor. She picked it up, opened it, read the offer letter, looked at Webb one more time. One condition. Anything. Every combat veteran with surgical training gets priority hiring. No questions about their methods, no discrimination for PTSD, no stigma. Done. And we establish a fellowship program. Train civilian surgeons in combat protocols. Send them to learn from military medical teams. Done. Elena stood up slowly, body aching, exhausted. Then I accept. 6 months later. Elena stood at the front of a packed auditorium, professional attire, confident posture, command presence, combat trauma protocol 101 written on the whiteboard behind her. Surgeons from 17 hospitals filled the seats, taking notes, recording videos, asking questions. Some had traveled from other states, some from other countries. Word had spread. Webb sat in the back row, notebook open, writing everything down, learning. She was teaching the clamshell thoracotomy, the procedure that had gotten her fired. Now it was standard practice in 43 hospitals across 6 states. The technique had saved 127 lives in 6 months, documented, verified, published. Metropolitan General's trauma mortality rate had dropped 34%. 34% fewer families getting devastating phone calls. 34% more patients going home. Other hospitals implementing the Kozlov protocols reported similar results, some even better. The military had taken notice. Pentagon liaison program established. Combat veterans transitioning to civilian surgical instruction positions, sharing battlefield innovations with emergency departments. Everything Elena had tried to do alone was spreading, growing, transforming emergency medicine. The ceremony happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Pentagon official in dress uniform, full medals, formal presentation, hospital board in attendance, surgical staff filling the conference room, media cameras recording. Dr. Elena Kozlov, the official began, for exceptional service and innovation in trauma medicine. He opened a citation, read from it. Your combat protocols have been integrated into the updated field surgical manual used by all branches of the United States military. Appendix K, previously classified, is now officially designated Appendix K, the Kozlov Protocols. He pinned a commendation to her jacket, gold and ribbons. Your methods are now taught to every combat surgeon deploying to active war zones. Your techniques are saving American lives on battlefields around the world. The room erupted in applause, standing ovation from the surgical staff, from the board, from the Pentagon official himself. Webb clapped until his hands hurt, until they were red, until tears ran down his face. Elena's office overlooked the trauma bay, wall of windows, perfect view. She could see everything from up here. The controlled chaos, the efficient teams, the saves, the losses, the humanity. Her wall was covered in photos, Martinez and the other 347 saves from her combat deployments, names, faces, stories, young men and women who'd gone home. She'd added new photos over the past 6 months, the 15 patients from that first night. All survived, all recovered, all living full lives. The 19-year-old girl from Bay 3 had come back to thank her, brought flowers, brought tears, brought gratitude, more photos joining them each week. Each month, patients saved using Kozlov protocols at Metropolitan General, at other hospitals, across the country, a growing wall of faces, of lives, of second chances. Elena touched Martinez's photo, young, smiling, in uniform, 348 and counting. I'm making it count, every single one. A small smile crossed her face. First. Genuine smile in 3 years. 2 years later. The statistics spoke for themselves. Kozlov protocol standard in 43 hospitals, training programs in 72 more, international adoption beginning in Canada and UK. Trauma survival rate increase, 28% nationally in facilities where protocols fully implemented. Lives saved, estimated 2,000 and climbing every day. Dr. Marcus Webb had retired from the chief surgeon position. Stepped down voluntarily. Recommended his own replacement. Now he traveled, visiting hospitals, training administrators, teaching a single lesson over and over, how to recognize talent over ego, how to value results over procedure, how to admit when you're wrong before people die because of your pride, how to get out of the way of excellence. His reputation had changed, from respected surgeon to respected teacher, from authority figure to cautionary tale to redemption story. He wore it well. Elena stood in the trauma bay, teaching a young surgeon the clamshell thoracotomy, real patient on the table, real emergency, real stakes, multi-vehicle accident, chest trauma, internal bleeding. The surgeon's hands shook. First time performing the procedure on a living patient. Remember, Elena said, voice calm, steady, authoritative but kind. Seconds matter, pride doesn't. Trust your training, trust your hands, trust what you know. The surgeon made the incision, opened the chest, spread the ribs, found the vessel. Perfect approach, perfect technique. Clamped the bleeding, tied off the repair. The patient's heartbeat steadied on the monitor. Strong, regular, normal. Elena stepped back. Let the surgeon complete the procedure. Let them have the save. Let them feel the triumph. Watched with pride, with satisfaction, with purpose. The young surgeon closed, finished, looked up with tears in their eyes. I did it. You did it. Elena looked at the monitor, at the steady rhythm, at the life continuing. She'd stopped counting after 500. The number didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the next one, and the next one, and the next one after that. What mattered was the wall of photos growing in her office. What mattered was the protocols spreading to new hospitals every month. What mattered was the combat veterans finding purpose in teaching. What mattered was the surgeons learning to value seconds over bureaucracy. What mattered was every patient who walked out of a hospital because someone had learned to do things differently. Martinez would have approved. All 347 of them would have approved. Elena smiled, patted the young surgeon on the shoulder. Good work. Now let's save the next one. And she moved to the next bay, the next patient, the next life. Always the next one. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the heroes working in our emergency rooms right now, hit that like button. These real-life warriors deserve our recognition. And subscribe to hear more stories about the incredible people who save lives every single day. Because somewhere right now, another Elena Kozlov is fighting to save someone you love. Let's make sure the world knows their names.